Let us come together with a centering prayer. Eternal God, author of life and end of our pilgrimage, guide us by your word and spirit amid all perils and temptations, that we may not wander from your way, nor stumble in the darkness, but may finish our course in safety and come to our eternal rest in you, through the grace and merit of Jesus Christ our Lord, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God, now and forever. Amen. To you who have joined us physically in this place, in person, on this God's day, good morning. To you who have joined us online in this God's day, good morning to you too. We are all together in this space, whether physically in person or online. God is with us. Even when we are alone, God is always there. Today's morning psalm is Psalm number 139. O Lord, you have searched me out. O Lord, you have known me. You know my sitting down and my rising up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You trace my journeys and my resting places, and are acquainted with all my ways. Indeed, there is not a word on my lips, but you, O Lord, know it altogether. You encompass me behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. Where can I go then from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I climb up to heaven, you are there. If I make the grave my bed, you are there also. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand will lead me, and your right hand hold me fast. If I say, surely the shadow will cover me, and the day around me turn to night, night shadow is not dense to you. The night is as bright as the day. Darkness and light to you are both alike. Search me out, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my restless thoughts. Look well whether there be any wickedness in me, and lead me in the way that is everlasting. Amen. Our prayer of confession this morning comes from our Book of Common Worship. Let us come together in prayer with these words. Jesus said, ask and it will be given you, seek and you will find, knock and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be opened. And to the one who knocks it will be opened. Friends in Christ, God knows our needs before we ask, and in our asking prepares us to receive the gift of grace. We open our lives and hearts to God's healing presence, seeking peace with God and reconciliation with our neighbors. We are mindful not only of personal evil, but also of our communal sins of family, class, race, and nation. We confess to God whatever has wounded us or brought injury to others, that we may receive mercy and become for each other ministers of God's grace. In this prayer, there are silent times, and in those silent times, lift up in your hearts that which is your personal confession. For failing to love others as you have loved us. God of grace, inspire us to be more loving. For wasting your gifts and hoarding your goods. God of grace, teach us that by sharing we gain even more. For plundering the earth and abusing the planet. God of grace, stay our hands and help us admire the good things you provide. For fearing those who are strange to us and ignoring those in need. God of grace, thaw our frozen hearts. For losing heart and abandoning hope. God of grace, strengthen our trust in you. For all the ways we turn from you. God of grace, turn us around that we may turn the world around. We offer our prayers in the name of the one who saves us, Jesus Christ. Amen. Lord, have mercy. Christ, have mercy. Lord, have mercy. The mercy of God is from before the beginning to after the end, unfathomable, yet present and real. We are redeemed before we know we need it. Live in this new life. Thanks be to God. Today's gospel reading is from Matthew, as so far this year all of our gospel readings have been. And once again, it is another familiar parable from last summer's parable series. It's a long reading, so bear with me. Chapter 13, verses 24 through 43. It starts with the parable of the weeds grown among the wheat. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. But while everybody was asleep, an enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat, and then went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared as well. And the servants of the householder came and said to him, "Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from?" He answered, "An enemy has done this." And the servants said to him, "Then do you want us to go and gather them?" But he replied, "No. For in gathering the weeds, you would uproot the wheat among them. Let both of them grow together until the harvest. And at harvest time, I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first, and bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. He put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field. It is the smallest of all the seeds, but when it has grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make nests in its branches. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until all of it was leavened. Jesus told the crowds all these things in parables. Without a parable, he told them nothing. This was to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth to speak in parables. I will proclaim what has been hidden from the foundation of the world. He then left the crowds and went into the house, and his disciples approached him, saying, Explain to us the parable of the weeds of the field. He answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are angels. Just as the weeds are collected and burned up with fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels, and they will collect out of his kingdom all causes of sin and all evildoers, and they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Let us pray. Almighty God, inspire our hearts and our minds to take in your word and to hear it with new ears and with a heart that is tuned towards your will. Amen. There are times when the preaching moment feels particularly poignant. And preaching 2 days following the deaths of 2 beacons of activism of civil rights is one of those moments when the preacher is very aware of where they are standing. Civil rights activist and longtime representative in Congress, John Lewis, although I think that he's actually a Reverend John Lewis, and also the Reverend C.T. Vivian, both died on Friday. And the work that they fought for stands incomplete. There are many sermons today being dedicated to the legacy of those 2 great men, this one included. To my shame, I did not know who Reverend C.T. Vivian was until after his death prompted me to learn about his life and his mission. I was more familiar with Congressman Lewis, especially from my own seminary professors. My professors would speak of marching with him or leading other demonstrations in his example. He was known for a gentle nature and was sometimes called the conscience of the Congress. He must have truly believed that even among the weeds of prejudice, whether secret or overt, subconscious and unrecognized privilege, implicit bias. He must have truly believed that the seeds of open, loving communion and fellowship were growing and thriving. In the last 10 years, he would tell the story of how, in 2009, a father and son pair came to his congressional office. The father was in his 70s, the son his 40s. The father, decades prior, had beaten a young John Lewis, that civil rights activist, over seats on a bus. That day, the father came in to admit what he had done and to seek forgiveness. Representative Lewis described it as a moment of healing, saying, "It is the power in the way of peace, the way of love. We must never, ever hate. The way of love is a better way." Words carry weight. And how we use language carries meaning beyond the words themselves. Anyone who listens to NPR Code Switch knows that we do not always speak the same code, even if we are all using English. So it behooves us to listen and learn how the language that we use becomes coded so that we can do better. In the book White Fragility, author Robin DiAngelo lists some words that individually might seem innocent, but when used in context, create walls between people. And I'm going to read out some of those words, and I want you all to do in your heads, or if you have paper and a pen in front of you, do some free word and free feeling association. Be aware of the feelings that these words, the images in your heads, that these words evoke in your heart and in your mind. The words that Ms. DiAngelo listed out are these: urban, to which I add rural, and suburban. She lists underprivileged and good neighborhood, diverse and sketchy, schools with good test scores and schools with poor test scores. There are more. Read the book. So, when you hear each of these words, what do they make you think of? When I did this exercise in a pastor's group that I've been working with these past couple of months, we were each astonished to learn the implicit bias buried in our own subconscious, pervasive within each of us to varying degrees, of course. We're embedded generations of bias and feelings of worth and worthiness. And so the exercise opened our eyes to these thorns and weeds within ourselves. Now, today's gospel message spoke of the necessity of letting weeds and wheat grow together, to leave the sheets in place until the harvest. And it is an interesting analogy, especially for anyone who has ever grown a garden. removing the weeds that choke the life out of the wanted plants is one of the chores that you do when you have a garden after all. So consider this. In Jesus' time, the mustard plant was one such weed to be rooted out. Farmers would remove the plant wherever it sprouted and burn the refuse to get rid of it. Yet Jesus lifts up the mustard seed as the source of a mighty, life-affirming tree. It was a shocking comparison that proposed turning the established practice completely around. It was anathema to anyone who worked the land to cultivate this invasive weed. Yet reading the parable of the mustard seed with the parable of the wheat and the weeds together, it combines to emphasize the fact that we do not know in our judgment the shape of God's kingdom. So another important note from Jesus' explanation. He talks about wheat seeds being the children of God and weed seeds being the children of the evil one, which he then counters with the very next parable. So speaking of the words that we use, this explanation sometimes reinforces in our minds differences between individuals. A child, after all, is an individual, and a child grows into an adult, also an individual. So we interpret these parables, therefore, as the seeds meaning individuals, whole people. And we judge people based on whether we think someone else is growing from a good or a bad seed. But that is a false interpretation. And even how Jesus tells these parables highlights the lie of that reading. Now, Jesus does explain that the Son of God grows good seed, and the evil one sows bad seed. And he also says that we cannot uproot the weeds without tearing out the seedlings. And he also lifts up the mustard seed, a scrubby, invasive plant called the most vile weed by farmers, but Jesus calls it the most desirable tree and a picture of God's plan for the people. So the seeds in the field are ideas. They are ideas planted in our hearts. As we live, different seeds take root and grow. And in ourselves, we all have both wheat seeds, unless you're celiac, of course, and we have weed seeds. Perhaps celiacs have rice seeds instead. But these seeds, they shape us. They make us who we are. And sometimes we learn that some of those seeds planted as lessons, sometimes those lessons need to be relearned. Something new needs to be planted. And so it behooves us to learn, to take those old lessons and grow from them. So the weeds are teaching points for each of us, and we are further shaped by them. Do you remember that list of words I read earlier? And do you remember your own associations with each of those words? These are some of your seeds and mine, whether they are wheat seeds or weed seeds. And when we leave these associations unchallenged, then they are little weeds that choke the heart. So learn from these coded words where and how you might use each and for what purpose. That is how they grow into that tall, beautiful plant that Jesus lifted up as the greatest of all the trees. As we learn about our biases, we are shaped by the seeds of awareness. Love can bloom in our hearts when we clear out the weeds of implicit bias, the weeds of unconscious privilege and unacknowledged prejudice. This is God's harvest. Thanks be to God. Amen. Let's have some moments of silence as we listen to the wind around us. I promise I wasn't looking at the clock. I had no idea that that was going to happen. But we come now to a bit of a celebration. We have 4 graduates this year. 2 have graduated from high school and had to miss out on some of those anticipated graduation rituals, and 2 that have graduated from college. So you already got some of those high school things, but I bet you were looking forward to some of those college graduation rituals too, and that's been denied you. But SUPC has long honored graduates. So welcome. Thanks for being here. I'm trying to figure out how exactly to do all of this. I want to honor each of you. I want to get each of you briefly in front of the podium here so you can tell everyone what you've been doing. And then on behalf of the congregation, the session has a gift for you all, and so I'd like to do that. So I think that I'll call you up one at a time, if you don't mind, and I'm going to start with Sarah, and then go to Burke, and then do both of the Ciprales so that we kind of have a flow around the room, okay? All right. So Sarah, do you want to come up here and say some words about where you're going? Very, very brief. Just. Yeah.
I've been accepted to Copenhagen College for culinary, and I'm be starting in August this fall.
Wonderful. This is for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Burke.
Hello everyone, I just graduated from SUNY Oneonta. I have my Bachelor's of the Arts, and I will be going to Messiah College to get my Master's in choral conducting. So.
Wonderful. Congratulations. right. Bridget and Catherine.
Hi, I have my bachelor's in elementary ed, special ed, and I'm going to master's at Purdue University, and applying for big girl jobs, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm going to be going to Russell Sage to study physical therapy.
After all of the unexpected cancellations and postponements and reduced gatherings, you have all risen above. Welcome to adulthood. But truly, congratulations to each of you, and good luck with everything, and just let's have a moment of prayer to honor all of you. Merciful God, you are the wind that propels us, the wind that flows through us, the wind that inspires us to be who you would have us be. We ask your blessings on these 4 young people, Sarah, Burke, Catherine, and Bridget. May they feel your love and your inspiration as they go forward in this new adult world, as they go into this new chapter of the adult life that they have already been living. We thank you for their witness in this world. Amen. All right. Did anyone fill out any prayers on the sheet back there? You did, okay. Within this prayer for intercession, there are moments of silent prayer. And again, if there's something that occurs to you, lift it up in your heart. Let us pray together. God, our Creator, your will for us and all your people is wholeness and salvation. Have mercy on us. Jesus Christ, Son of God, you came that we might have life and have it in abundance. Have mercy on us. Holy Spirit, dwelling within us, you make us temples of your presence. Have mercy on us. To the triune God, the source of all love and all life, let us offer our prayers. For your church in every place, that we may worship and serve you faithfully. For leaders and people in every land, that they may know your way and do your will. For justice throughout the world, that there may be peace and plenty for all. For the earth you have made, that it may flourish in beauty and show your glory. For those who hunger and thirst, that they may be filled with good things. For those who are ill or close to death, that they may know your loving care. For Jean Hay, hospitalized with a serious heart condition. For Amy Rudolph, who is still experiencing heart issues. For members of this congregation who are otherwise also going through serious health concerns. We lift up all who are shut in right now, whether they have been shut in because of concerns over COVID-19, or whether they have for a long time been someone who is safer at home. We lift up those who have no shelter at home, yet must stay because of the current conditions. Eternal God, ruler of all things in heaven and earth, accept the prayers of your people and strengthen us to do your will. Through Jesus Christ. Amen. As I mentioned at the beginning of the service, we remembered to actually bring out an offering plate. Thank you, Todd. So if you have not already put your offering in the plate, you may do so on your way out of this space. But now I'm going to say some words on why we give and what we give for. These are commissioning words. And as we commission what we offer, we also offer ourselves. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to bring good news to the oppressed. The Lord has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release for those in prison, to comfort all who mourn, to give them a garland instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, a garment of splendor for the heavy heart. They shall be called trees of righteousness, planted for the glory of the Lord. Therefore I will rejoice greatly in the Lord. My whole being shall exult in my God, for God has robed me with salvation as a garment, and clothed me with integrity as a cloak. For the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to spring up before all the nations. And once again, I invite you to speak with me the Lord's Prayer. Speak the words that are comforting and familiar to you as we say this prayer together. Our Creator in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive our debts as we forgive our debtors. Save us from the time of trial and deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. And these are the words of benediction that I'll speak right now. God be with you till we meet again. Loving counsels guide and uphold you. With a shepherd's care enfold you. God be with you till we meet again. Amen. May the peace of Christ be with you all.
And also with you.